I'm Dr. Erica Bove, and welcome to the Love and Science podcast. I'm your host and also the founder of Love and Science, Thriving Through Infertility. I'm so excited you're here today. With over a decade of experience helping thousands of women just like you, I empower professional women to build their families with confidence and compassion. Let's dive in. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Love and Science podcast. I have a distinguished guest today, Dr. Stacey Cisneros. I met her at the Physician Coaching Summit a couple of months ago, and I was blown away by her healing abilities, by her ability to heal an entire group of people at once. As soon as I saw her and experienced her healing abilities, I wanted to help you come into contact with her because she has wisdom, she has powers, she has knowledge, and she has awareness that we need in the love and science community. So I'm going to introduce her. Her name is Dr. Stacey Cisneros. She is a practicing wound care physician in Skokie, Illinois, and she is a certified human design coach and infinity healing practitioner and trainer. She uses these modalities to bring precise transformation to her clients by shifting long-standing subconscious beliefs quickly, gently, and permanently. She helps professionals break through their limiting beliefs to up-level their desires, which is so relevant because I think every single person who's listening has very, very deep desires around parenthood. So Dr. Stacey, thank you so much for spending your time on our podcast. I cannot wait for the conversation we're about to have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Erica, for inviting me, and I'm really excited to share my journey, and I hope somebody can benefit from my journey and my story.
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, I will say I had never heard of infinity healing or human design before I met you, actually. And, people had all these like acronyms before the conference and everything. And I felt like I was like, oh gosh, like I'm always interested in learning more. And from my brief foray into what you have to offer, I'm just blown away by the relevance and the power of it. And so can you tell us a little bit about how you learned about these modalities and what they have meant for you personally?
Yeah, so my story starts back in 2008 when I burned out a surgical residency. And, I didn't have a job lined up. I had a lot of medical school debts. And at the same time that my contract wasn't renewed for residency, my father passed away. And so not only did I not have a job, I didn't have income. I was also very heartbroken and grieving. And I didn't have a plan for moving forward because the jobs I applied to was 2008. Nobody was accepting. So I went back home with my mom to grieve the loss of my dad. And in doing so, I took a hiatus and I started researching different modalities because I really felt that surgical residency was something I strongly believed in. I had my whole heart in it, but somehow when I was burning out, my body was shutting down. My body was not able to, you know, get up and go like everybody else's. When I would wake up, my body would be in pain, like it was still recovering from sleeping. Um, as you know, residents are very sleep deprived, and so when I was, attending patients, I would go into micro sleep while standing up, all these things, and so my body was just really shutting down when I didn't want it to shut down, and it wasn't like I could really consciously control because I was really trying to stay awake and be at my best. But eventually my body had the final word. And so I found myself like at home, grieving my father and then searching the internet for different ideas as to what went wrong, what's wrong with me, am I thinking about this a different way? And why isn't anybody coming to help me, right? And so in that journey, I actually found human design, which is uh, a modality that's comprised of Western astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah, and the chakra system. And what these systems have in common is that they all describe archetypes of the human experience. And because they combine them, it gives you a very specific, very personalized view of how you're interfacing with the world around you. And so I was just listening to um, one of the human design teachers who eventually became my teacher, Karen Curry Parker, and she was talking about 5 different energy types. And she was describing um, basically how much energy these people have and what they do and what their functions are. And I was listening and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely like a manifesting generator because that's how I've been running my life. I've been multitasking, doing things at the top of my energy, blah, 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 right? So I do my chart, right? I run chart in my free software, and it turns out I'm a projector, which means I'm actually not built to do that. And then I was like, oh, and so that kind of just freed myself up from judging myself. And so I thought, okay, well, this is interesting. It's just that I'm approaching life a different way. And so I started really looking at my life like, okay, I'm a guide. Projectors are supposed to be guides. They're supposed to be wise about energy. And I'm supposed to protect my own energy and make sure that whatever it is that I do, I'm having fun, enjoyment, and hold back, if I'm working too much, right? I have to really be mindful of my body because obviously running my life like the other energy types just didn't work. So
Mm.
I found this to be really profound. And what really sold me was that because it's based in Western astrology, it predicted my life coming to that hard stop. Like astrologers call this the Saturn return, and so does human design. So
Mm.
it described precisely the themes that I would encounter during that hard stop. And so I
Yeah.
was researching this and I thought, this is really showing me my life and my body. Like, I really have to dive into this. And so I didn't start really studying it until like the mid 2010s. And then later I
Hmm.
got certified to be a reader and most recently a coach in human design. And
So
so,
cool.
yeah, and so around that time, around the same time I found human design, um, I realized that I had really had to shift my life because the way it was structured just wasn't working. Um, and so I had grown up believing, like my parents taught me, like, oh, you could be whatever it is you want to be. You have to think positively, very, generic kind of, um, you know, positive psychology concepts, right? What I didn't understand was that I also had to get my subconscious on board. And I was just looking at different modalities like binaural beats, affirmations, and they just kind of took too long because, I would say something like, I am rich, and then my brain would be like, I am not. And so I needed a different modality to help me like really um, shift those beliefs because, it was just taking too long and it was very mentally tiring. I was listening to a podcast and one of the speakers, his name's Tarek BB, and he's founder of Infinity Healing. And he was introducing the modality to the listeners. And I was listening to this on playback. His um, whatever his talk was on money and releasing money issues, blocks, limiting beliefs. And
Yeah.
so I decided to listen to it. And then all of a sudden, and this is me listening to it on playback. So it's a meditation. And all of a sudden I felt electricity flow through my body and out through my leg. And I was like, well, what just happened? That was real. I have to look into this. Well, a couple weeks later, I found that my, my checkbook needed balancing. And for a while, I wasn't even opening my student loan envelopes that I had a balance, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to look at my bank account. It was just too stressful. But now I felt okay like writing checks. I felt okay, like, okay, well, this is what I have, big deal. And so I noticed that I was a little bit more relaxed about my money situation. So
Mm.
then I got a private one-on-one session. Then within 2 weeks of that private one-on-one session with that modality, I came into $10,000 like out of the blue. And I'm like, what is this? And so I promised myself that, eventually I'd want to understand how is it that this meditation is helping me not just perceive my resources, but also receive them.
Mm,
And so later on, when he had a training, I decided to take it because I really wanted to know like what goes on the back end of this modality, like what makes it so powerful for me. And so I did that, and then I also took a trainer course, which means that I can also train other people to be practitioners. And so fast forward, yeah, by this time I've been doing energy work on myself. I do infinity healing on myself regularly. And so
mm,
my I started getting trained in wound care and then opening up my own private practice because now I was more aligned. Now I understood I can do this, and all the resistance I had, all the different limitations I believed I had, well, they didn't matter anymore because the subconscious um was just those beliefs were just shifted out of the way. And so this has been these two modalities have been super life changing for me. And now I share them with my coaching clients online. And lots of different transformations have occurred. And it seems like the more I share them, the more surprised I am that they touch people in such ways that I can't always predict. And it's
mm,
always for the better. So in that sense, like these two modalities have really shaped my life. And I feel like without them, I probably wouldn't be practicing medicine.
that's so powerful. It's so, so powerful. And I love when you were talking about the manifesting generator versus the projector, and like how you said your body shut down even though you didn't want it to. I think of so many people on the fertility journey who feel like their bodies are broken, that they're shutting down, that they're not working the way that they were built or should. And I think that when we can release the self-judgment, right? Because you're like, oh, it's because I'm a projector and I'm built a different way. If it's like, oh, infertility is a disease, there's nothing that I did that is wrong here. I need to learn how to work with what I've been given and figure out a way. Like, I think it's like parallel processes.
Absolutely. I think of human design as giving you that framework to really re-look at your life and re-look at yourself
Yeah.
in a lens of self-acceptance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at your relationships as energetic, not personal, right? And then with infinity healing, whatever beliefs that still remain, that part works as like the activator to help you really move forward without any real
Yeah.
limiting beliefs holding you back.
So tell me again, so for, because my brain needs like the clarity, who is the person to start with the human design, and who is the person to start with infinity healing? We'll do infinity healing at the end too to see, but like how can people say, okay, this would be good for me or this other would be good for me? If you're listening right now and finding yourself nodding along, this is usually the moment people realize that they want support that's specific to them. In addition to this podcast, I offer one on one fertility consults where we look at your full picture with both strategy and compassion. You can learn more in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah, so the human design, the way it was taught to me by my teacher, Karen Curry Parker, she came at it from a coaching perspective. So when I use it in my coaching, it's usually for clients who are making a big shift in their life and
Mm,
they either need some kind of confirmation, insight, permission, or some kind of awareness that they don't already have moving forward. And in that reading and in that coaching, we go over what is the most energetically aligned way and efficient way to move forward with the resources around you. Um,
mm,
and then
yeah.
also what how your body tells you this is the right way to go and this is not the right way to go. It's called the inner authority. And so
Mm,
the decision making process is really important. So human design also meant to really have people tap back into the truth in their bodies, because that's actually what's going to move them forward with that energy that's sustainable.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. And then the infinity healing, like I mentioned before, um, if you've been trying to get something, or you realize that, there's something holding you back, but you just can't figure it out, an infinity healing session will help unpack all that and then address each of those limiting beliefs in a very
Wow.
gentle way. Um, so like you described, you know, you felt uh, a sense of groundedness and peace, and so did I. Like I first I felt that electricity. But when I do it on myself now, it's more of a sense of grounding and a beingness. So those ideas are actually anchored into the identity, and so you carry those forth, and then you move forward with these new beliefs. So I think it's a really
Mm.
powerful modality.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it, when I listened to the first time, I was thinking about, my own life and the things that I'm currently, working on. And as I think about our listeners who are on the fertility journey, like there's so many decision points where there can just be this swirling of information, right? And I think it seems to me like the human design is helpful for people who are at those junctures of like, what do I do next? Or how do I know the right next thing? And we do some of that, right, at Love and Science, but maybe not in quite the same way as like the human design with the bringing forward a lot of that the wisdom right from those traditions. And I don't know, it's really interesting for me to think about people who feel stuck, right, and how it's a way to get unstuck using that modality. And then and the clarity, right, the awareness is real, what you said for that. And then infinity healing we'll get a taste of in a minute, but I think it's so cool that you can bring that, because I think, you know from my perspective, when people decide to go to medical school, most of us in our personal statement, felt like we were called to do this to be healers, right?
Right.
And I think if we say, okay, well, in this body with the gifts that I've been given, how can I bring that healing, in the highest form possible to people at this point in time? You found these ways to heal people. And like when you were doing that meditation at the physician coaching summit, like something opened up like in my wrists, and like I just felt like this like really intense energetic like it was almost like I could just like imagine it and I could feel it, like almost like just like energy was just like shooting out of my wrists in this really incredible way. And like that persisted for like a few days and like still has returned on a few different occasions. And like before, and I'll just share, like before I hadn't really noticed like the soles of my feet. I was like, oh, that's like my portal to the core of the earth. And like I was always very sensitive to like that opening, but like what you did that day was the first time I had ever really like experienced that. Like my wrists were these portals of energy and healing. And I was like, okay, Dr. Stacey, she's a true healer. Like whatever you just did. And that was not even one-on-one. That was like in a group session answering these questions. It was just like incredibly powerful for me to experience. So I just wanted to bring my own perspective on what it was like to hear you doing this work.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm always, like I said, I'm always amazed at how, one meditation can affect different people in such
Yeah.
beneficial ways. And they're all different, right? Because we're all
Oh my
different. We
gosh.
we hold different beliefs, we hold different experiences. Even though we're all one,
Yeah.
we're all
And I
very
don't know if you
different.
remember, like somebody in the audience was like, oh yeah, now my migraine's gone, or oh my gosh, my back had been bothering me this entire time. And like that's better. It was like this, like all these stories of like organic healing just coming from the people. And it was just like really interesting to me how like that holding space for so, because I think about like, yes, I do the groups and the transformations happen in the groups, but not a group of that size. And like to just like to have you like grounded yourself, and then to have so many people have such profound experiences like so quickly. It was just like, woo. Like it was really, really amazing for me to experience that. Yeah.
These are always really fun. And I want to preface to your listeners that I believe all healing is self-healing. And so
Mm.
during the meditation, I connect to what I believe is God, source, the divine. And then I encourage everybody else to also do that connection during the meditation. And so whatever is happening within a person's body, It's between them and their spirit or higher self, or however you want to look at it,
Yep.
whatever your word for that is. So that's being mediated there. You're allowing that connection to happen and be fully present for it. And that's why I think a lot of people experience, different sensations within their bodies and different, like, manifestations of their, their bodies and their awarenesses and their healing and whatnot. And so, and it's interesting
Mhm.
because if you recall, I did the topic was on riches and abundance. It wasn't anything about physical healing. So it just goes to show the power of the mind and how, it we can really tap into that higher awareness, the higher consciousness, the spirit, whatever you call it. And when you do that, you're actually going into a certain brain wavelength, right?
Yeah.
And then in that process, your body is also reacting to this new expanded awareness. And so all this is being mediated. You're allowing that communication to happen, and whatever needs to come up to be healed sometimes is. So yeah, I'm always
Amazing.
really excited when I hear all these different testimonials and experiences. So
Yeah, it's incredible. And I wanted to shift to think about like people on the fertility journey and limiting beliefs. And that's something that was part of my coaching training, is to say, okay, you have a circumstance which is neutral, even though we might have some feelings towards it, like infertility is a circumstance or recurrent pregnancy loss is a circumstance. Whatever it is, maybe people have a new diagnosis of cancer. That's the fact. Nobody would argue. But then we bring like our traumas and our stories and our self judgments and all those things. And, I think that's the stuff where we start to form these limiting beliefs, which are basically thoughts that we've had over and over and over, to where they become a belief, often about ourselves, right? Or, a sort of a limiting belief. So it's like something can't happen, or maybe this fertility treatment's not going to work for me, or it's never going to work, or I'm, the universe is telling me I'm not supposed to be a mother, like those things. And so can we talk a little bit about like particular limiting beliefs that may be seen on the fertility journey and maybe what we can do about them?
yeah, so this is what I really love about my work is unpacking all of these different beliefs and really seeing what the root really is.
Mm,
So when we want to manifest something, we tend to think about ourselves and our own personal power, um, the power that we have over our circumstances, right? And so sometimes we believe that the outside circumstances are overpowering us. And so we have to return to a place where we can trust what's given to us. We can trust our own bodies. We can trust, our own sense of beingness for that power. That's part of reclaiming that. So one of the biggest blocks is, I'm not powerful and I
mm,
can't make things happen, right? Um, and that I have
mm,
to push and effort to do these things. It's a belief that also that we have to do things and not just be ourselves, right?
mm, mm,
Um, Other times we look at we're pushing things away because we're afraid of them. And we look at these fears and we ask ourselves, okay, I'm afraid of this change subconsciously because it means, changes in my body, or it means, changes in the relationship dynamics I have with, my partner or the rest of my family, or I'm pushing it away because I'm afraid of my safety, my physical safety before, during, and after this event takes place, right? So we're pushing it away energetically. We're afraid about, oh my gosh, I'm going to be overwhelmed because these are new responsibilities in this new experience, right?
right.
And then we also think about, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of experiencing this because I'm not going to have support. Like I'm, financially, physically, my career won't support it. Where's my time? Can I emotionally support this? All of these things, like, and these things are they're just beliefs, right?
Mm,
We don't have to make them necessarily mean anything, but we do have to acknowledge them. And then, we use a modality to help you release them.
Mm.
And so I think those are like the biggest things that we, when we fear something, we push it away, right?
Mhm.
We're not in a space of allowing it, to come to us. The
Can
other
I say
thing,
something else about
yeah,
that? I think in that same vein is people who have complicated relationships with their own mothers. And I
mm-hmm.
think people are deep down afraid that they're not going to be good parents. I hear this a lot. And we do a lot of work on what I have learned to call the mother wound. And I think I found as people work on that mother wound themselves, it then helps them trust that they're resourceful and that they will be able to be good parents. And actually, one thing that I do to help people with that is if people have like dogs or cats and they're like really nurturing dog parents or cat parents, we focus on that because I think that helps to restore the trust that like when a little human does come to be theirs, that like they already have everything that they need. They already demonstrate that nurturing ability and that we do have the power to change from generation to generation.
Those are really amazing and interesting points because, yeah, a lot of, like you said, a lot of it has to do with how we see ourselves, our self-worth, and like you said, like how we've been raised and conditioned to see, like, okay, this is what a mother figure is, this is what it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Do I fit
Yeah.
this? Do I not? Like, there's a lot of questions there. And so, yeah, that really undermines your own self-trust, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And to go along with that too, I think that in medicine, especially, a lot of my listeners are female physicians. We bring a lot of like very masculine energy to the space of like being in the OR, being the one in charge, and like it's not a very receptive energy. And so, one thing I love help people to do is like say like you don't have to be in control here. Like conceiving is receiving. Like how can we soften? How can we allow that vulnerability, which feels really uncomfortable for people if they're not used to being in that stance, right? It really is. But I think with the right support, we can allow this is not about like a male body or female body, but it's more about that divine energy and really connecting with that feminine divine, right? That is ours. You said reclaiming, it's about reclaiming that. But I think that that limiting belief of like, I always have to be in control or in charge or my safe space is this this realm helping to let go of that because I think that is something that can really get in the way of this process.
Yeah, like I said, that manifestation process is about removing those beliefs that, those resistance beliefs, like we talked about the fear that you're pushing it away. And then we address also those beliefs where we're too attached. So like you said, opening up that receptive space, removing or shifting at least negative judgments and attachments we might have to that, next experience that we want to experience. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a push-pull that our minds are doing. And once that push and pull uh group of limiting beliefs is addressed, then it frees us up. It allows us to relax and just be, right?
Be the patient. Can you say more about the attachment? I talk a little bit about that in my coaching practice. Like, what does that look like when we're really attached to a particular outcome? Because it's like, I just want it so badly, like I've
Right.
wanted nothing else in the, or like maybe there was like two trips and it's like, and it has to happen this month. And I will tell you, if somebody comes to me and says like, okay, well, my husband is away on this rotation, but then he's coming to town and then I am doing like if it's like there's so many details and so many like it has to happen this way. I can say like, it is definitely not going to happen because it's too prescripted and that's not the energy of this process. And so can we talk a little bit about what that attachment looks like and how you help people like lovingly detach in a healthy way to allow for what's meant to happen.
Absolutely. This is like such an important topic because, having a desire, a true desire of your heart, that's good. Like you want that. Like, that's given to you by, like the divine or your spirit or whatever word you have for it, versus the wanting, the lack, the need, right? They're two different energies. So one, the desire is more based in love, joy, and expansion. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how you know like what you have right now. And then on the flip side, you can be like, oh my gosh, I want this, I don't have this. That's like a lack mentality. That's
Mm,
needing, controlling, like all those energies are what you kind of want to unpack and then, shift because this attachment keeps it from actually happening. The control is actually what keeps the rest of reality from assisting you, including your body in what you want to bring forth. So we have to let go. And don't get me wrong, I have this issue myself as
yeah.
well because
Yeah.
we're all like very, we most of us are very type A, right? We're very like we've been taught it's not going to get done unless you do something about it. So go get it,
Hmm.
girl, right? And
Yeah.
so and so we've been programmed like this, and most of our society is run very masculine, right? It's like, action, do, be, like in really when
Force.
we flip it over,
Yeah.
it's really be, do, have. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the reverse or be, have, do. And then so we really have to give that, idea a little bit more balance. So yes, we do have to do things. We do have to do things to make it happen. Do we have to do it like in a way that constricts our energy? Like feel into like that need and the control and the attachment. Like this has to happen. It's so important. I'm putting this up on a pedestal. Oh my God. We like, okay, like you get it, right? This feels
Yeah.
very heavy. It feels very constrictive, right? Versus, oh my gosh, it'd be awesome if this happens or something better. And I'm open to it and I'm excited for it. But if it doesn't happen, I still have an amazing life. I still love myself. I'm still going
Mhm.
to grow in many different ways. But this would be a plus. Like, do you like see how like the
Oh
two are
yeah.
kind of energetically opposed?
And that's
So
such a beautiful description. And I will tell you, like, invariably, the people for whom this works are the people who can shift into that latter state where it's like, I think we have to go to that. You know what? Like, there's a possibility it might not happen. And, I am a person who makes the best of the things that happen in my life. And there's a lot of things we don't understand, but we truly cannot control everything. And I've had people even say, like, the less I try to control, the more grounded I feel because I realized the control wasn't mine in the first place.
absolutely. And so a
Yeah.
lot of my work focuses on, how, like you said, like helping people discover where they are with that and maybe even help release or loosen those attachments so that we can relax and receive for once. I mean, isn't it
Yeah.
nice that the universe wants to give to us? And
Yes.
why
It
wouldn't
is
I
so.
want to receive? Like,
I think part of it, at least in my own life and what I've seen in my clients, is like there's this fundamental belief we're not going to be okay if something doesn't work out the way we think it needs to. So like, you know, like this family member has to like respond to this treatment, or else I'm not going to be okay. Or, if these fertility treatments don't work and I'm not a mom, then my life is going to be over because that's all I've ever wanted. And so I feel like we have to like go to that place of like what is okay and what is a meaningful life and like how can I really realize that like the universe does have my back. Like, if there's a desire for parenthood, like there's a pathway. It may not look like the way we had originally envisioned, but we have to trust that we conspire with the universe to receive what's our highest good. And so that's the part that I think is so scary is like, but how can you tell me that? Because I really won't be okay if I'm not a mom. What would you say to somebody who kind of is in that state?
absolutely. So our minds, we latch onto these, attachments because that bottom belief that you just described, that I'm not going to be okay, or you know, other bottom beliefs like I'm unlovable, like nobody's gonna love me, like if you're manifesting a person. Like I can't be alone. I can't be alone with myself. Like it's too
Mm,
much. Yeah, because that first bottom belief, it has to be fueled by you. So part of the infinity healing work is about downloading the understanding of what self-love feels like, what self-acceptance feels like, what it feels to be okay with oneself, right? And
Mhm.
I know like sometimes people might have resistances to, loving themselves or being gentle with themselves because they feel like, well, if I'm hard on myself, well, they'll just, it'll keep me on task, it'll keep me doing things. Yes, but to a point, right? And we
Yeah.
need to come to a point where we're not outsourcing the sense of okayness. We're not outsourcing our self-love. We're not outsourcing our sense of acceptance because at the end of the day, we go home and we live with ourselves, right? Wherever we go, there we are. And so that those bottom beliefs have to be downloaded and they have to be integrated and they have to be lived. And only then, you know, is it easier to shift all these other beliefs, really? So it's like two-parter. You remove the limiting beliefs, you remove the attachments, the resistances, and then you install all those positive beliefs. So yeah, amazing question.
Ooh, I have chills. That was so powerful. I cannot wait to listen again because there's so much wisdom in that. But like, oh my goodness, that's exactly it. Thank you for saying it so eloquently. But woo, that is just it's gonna help so many people. So can we try this? Like I think we talked a little bit about beforehand that like you could guide us through a meditation and I'll be silent, but I'd love to like for our listeners to experience firsthand and even participate right where they are as long as they're not driving or operating heavy machinery, to help them experience this transformation.
Absolutely. This is like my favorite part of whenever I'm asked to be a guest. I love sharing infinity healing. And so like Dr. Erica said, make sure you're in a safe space. Make sure you're not operating heavy machinery. Make sure you're not operating. Make sure you're not doing intensive caretaking or driving because sometimes the meditation can be a little disorienting. Um, and so, yeah, whenever you're ready, we can start the meditation. And so, what I'm sharing with you now is called the Infinity Healing Technique. And the way it works is that your body, your mind, your subconscious mind is connected to the bigger picture. So whether you believe that's called the universe, the superconsciousness, the divine, spirit, God, whatever your word for it, you are a small fractal within that larger picture. And we're going to connect to that. And so ultimately, this process is going to help you align and have communication between all of that whole part. And so throughout the meditation, I'm going to ask you yes or no questions, and then you'll say out loud whether you'd like this infinity healing process to be applied to that particular um, issue. And so if you don't want infinity healing to act with that issue, you don't have to say anything. And so this is all activated by your conscious verbal yes. Okay. And so, what starts releasing today will continue being worked on for as long as it's needed. And so this means that it may continue for the next few days, weeks. Okay. And during and after the session, some people feel energy shifting. They can feel hot and cold sensations, pulsing, and some people feel nothing. So, whatever you feel or don't feel, that's okay and perfect for your process. So let's take a moment to get in a comfortable position. You can be sitting or lying down and with your arms and legs uncrossed. Okay. And set your intention to receive the maximum benefit from the session. And you may close your eyes and go ahead and take 3 deep, conscious belly breaths. Okay. So, do you surrender the session and the results of the session entirely to source, super consciousness, universe, God, divine spirit? If so, say yes. And then take a deep belly breath and release that. And then, if there's any part of you that's not able to receive the maximum during today's session, would you like an infinity healing process to clear everything in the way of you being able to receive the maximum right now? If so, say yes. And if there's any part of you that's not able to release the maximum during today's session, would you like a process to help you release the maximum right now? If so, say yes. Okay. And as soon as you let it go, we're replacing it with what's for our highest good, the highest vibrations our bodies can receive. And if there's any part of you that is in the way, interfering with, resisting, sabotaging, or afraid of all that's available for you today, would you like an infinity healing to help your higher self set all of that aside, and to show you what's going on from the highest perspective? If so, say yes. Okay. So let's become aware of ourselves within that bigger part. So, source, superconsciousness, universe, God, and visualize a beautiful liquid light pouring from this part down to the top of your head, down into your neck. And this liquid light is going down into your shoulders, and your chest, your arms, hands. It's going down into your belly, down into your pelvis and your hips. It's going down into your thighs and knees, down into your calves and ankles and your feet. And this liquid light is pouring all the way down through your body. And it's going all the way down through your feet into the ground. And it's going down, 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 down into the ground. And go ahead and just breathe all that light in and release. So starting now, if you'd like an infinity healing to download what self-love means for you, say yes. If you'd like an infinity healing process to download what self-acceptance means for you, if so, say yes. Would you like an infinity process, healing process to download what it means to really be okay within yourself? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing process to address anywhere you have fear of any changes that might happen to your body in this process? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing process to address any fears that you might have that might change your relationship dynamics? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing process to address any fears regarding your safety, your physical safety during, before, and after delivery or any process? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing process to assist you with any new responsibilities that come with the acceptance and arrival of your goals, dreams, new family, etc.? So say yes. Would you like an infinity healing to address and transmute any fears that you might have regarding any lack of support, whether they be financial, physical, emotional, and career moving forward? If so, say yes. Do you like an infinity healing process to help you transmute all these fears into insight, courage, and positive forward action? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing to help you address any negative judgments or attachments that you have regarding this next stage of your life, whether it's being pregnant, having children, or receiving the new manifestation? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing to address any negative judgments or attachments you might have to not having your desire? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing to address any negative judgments or attachments you might have of the timing of receiving uh, your desires? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing to help you feel self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for knowing, feeling, and being a person who is self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for knowing, feeling, and being allowed to be self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for knowing, feeling it is safe to be self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for knowing and feeling it's safe for you personally to be self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for downloading the definition and integrating and embodying safety? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for knowing and feeling it's possible to be self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for knowing and feeling the possibility exists now to be self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for knowing and feeling it's possible for you personally to be self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like infinity healing for knowing and feeling you are worthy of being self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like infinity healing for knowing and feeling you are deserving of being self-empowered? If so, say yes. Would you like an infinity healing for knowing and feeling you can be self-empowered in the highest and best ways with harm to none? If so, say yes. And would you like an infinity healing for the ability to expand your own capacity for love, life, and legacy in the highest and best ways? If so, say yes. Okay, to close, Source God, Universe, Divine Spirit, Superconsciousness, please deepen these healings, take them to their infinite next levels, share them with all aspects of ourselves, our children, grandchildren, or child, inner child, parents, ancestors, past lives, simultaneous existences, all space, time, and dimensions, include in this healing more than we know what to ask for, that this or something greater will happen, setting this healing on with an autopilot with infinite ease and grace. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and so it is. And so you can gently come out of that meditation and open your eyes and stretch.
Wow. That was so beautiful. Thank you for guiding us through that.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah. So for people who did that exercise, you said that they maybe continue to get downloads, right, as they go about their days. What can people do with this information to help integrate it?
And so what we advise is to stay hydrated, because sometimes that moves energy throughout your body. I don't have the esoteric reasoning why that is, but that's usually what we're instructed. And then you can actually journal what seems to happen the next few days. And that actually kind of focuses your awareness on what shifted and how you're feeling as you go forward, certainly.
So interesting. And you know, I appreciate your using your healing gifts to help this community because I do believe there's energetic blocks. I see them be released all the time. And I think it's so powerful that we like take a broad view. Yes, we do the scientific treatments that were being prescribed very thoughtfully. And I always say, like, our vectors need to be aligned in the same direction for this to work. And that's why, like, I tell the men, like, if you're smoking marijuana, that's like a vector in the wrong direction. And we want to like correct that vector so that all your vectors are in the right direction. It's the same thing with our energy blocks. If we have like a big energetic block that is like pointing in the opposite direction, it's really hard sometimes to overcome that even with the best science. And so all these approaches, all these modalities are so important so that we can align the vectors, so we can, like you said, this or something better, like whatever our highest good is, especially on this path, that we can manifest that and be the participants in that process. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, so I wanted to ask you, so you've been doing this a long time now. Can you share a story or two of like transformations that maybe some of your clients have experienced through this work? Like what sorts of things do people experience?
Yeah, they come to me for infinity healing for many different topics. In one case, I had one of my clients was actually at the very beginning of her fertility journey. And at that time, she was even having anxiety about sharing her desires with her husband because for a while, well, they had agreed not to have children when they got together.
Mm,
And so even just removing that fear, shifting the beliefs about possibilities, that all that had to start, all that, you know, anxiety, the shame, the angst, the want, had to be released. So we did an infinity healing process on um, her relationship and the openness that needed to be there, and also her connection to her own body because she did have physical symptoms and health challenges. And so she also had anxiety that those things would get in the way. And her bottom belief was that she wasn't healthy enough to carry a child.
mm,
And so, actually, eventually, within a year, she became pregnant. And so now she
mm.
has her first baby daughter. So that
Wow.
was a really nice um, ending to her journey. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I'm always touched by these different stories. I have a lot of clients that come to me because they have anxieties about their own health and how they will um, overcome those challenges. And, when you sign up for a one-on-one session for infinity healing with me, my my auto form that you have to fill out before, you have a session with me, a lot of my clients say that form that they fill out actually helps them with insight. So they're actually healing even before they come to the
Huh.
session because they've had all these realizations from all these questions I'm asking. So the healing begins there, and then I just go ahead and help them clean up all the bottom beliefs that are there. And so, yeah, it's
Mm.
just really nice.
That's really amazing. And then how do you stay on this path? Like obviously it sounds like you do your own, like, do you continue to have guides? Like how do you keep participating in this for your own life as, you're going through what life offers you on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so I do infinity healing on myself um, pretty much every day, most days I would say. And the practice of that is really, um, it's been impactful because it helps me get into those deeper brainwave states. It helps me really get quiet and really ground and be intentional about what I want to create in my life.
Mhm.
And that's actually come with so many benefits because kind of like you, like at work, this process serves to deepen my intuition. I drop into this state and intend to find an answer to maybe like a clinical question that, for all practical purposes has really doesn't have, an answer medically, right? But it opens up my mind and it opens up more possibilities and more resources so that I can draw
Mm.
from that. So it's really nice when I use it clinically to help me problem solve um, with whatever I have to do at work. And then it's interesting because this process helps you become more introspective about, how am I creating my world around me. And once that's corrected, that those inner beliefs, then I'm more apt to see how my outside world changes. And so
Mm-hmm.
that has actually not only built trust within myself, but also it's helped me to see how I interact with the world around me and has helped me understand my own personal power. So this whole process has been an amazing journey, and I don't know where I'd be without it. So
Wow, it's so beautiful. And you're right. Like, I love what you said about how we actually do with our inner world, then create the conditions for our outside world. We're taught it's the opposite. We're like, oh, it's these circumstances and this, we're the victim and we don't have any power. When we realize like how our inner world and how our beliefs do really drive our outside world and our experience and the things that happen, it's really powerful because at Love and Signs, we're all about taking back our power. A lot of your questions in the Infinity Healing were about becoming empowered and taking that back. And I think the more that we can find different ways and approaches to do that, the more successful this process is going to be. And we're going to be open to possibilities that maybe we didn't even see before. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your wisdom, which is like nothing else I've ever seen before in any of my 42 years of existence. It's really, really powerful what you're doing and how you're combining these things to create so many transformations. So I can't wait to book a session with you personally. Where can people find you?
so my website is infinitelevelhealings.com. And in it, you can book a session. You could also get a free human design chart with a free report if you're interested in that. And yeah, subscribe to my mailing list. I have a free mini infinity healing for your human design if you're interested in that. And so, yeah, I'm also on social media like Facebook and Instagram. And then I have my own podcast, Stacey's Infinity Podcast, which is launching its second session. So be sure to tune into that.
Amazing. We'll put your links in the show notes for sure. Anything else you want our people to know?
Oh my gosh, all of you are infinite and you have infinite power. You just don't know it. Um, yeah, just trust in that beingness and don't let your beliefs stop you from your desires. Your desires create worlds. So yeah, open up and be more open to receive.
Yeah. With guides, right? I don't think we can, most of us can't do this by ourselves. We need the guides to help us to co-create with the process. I firmly believe that because if it would have worked by now, it would have worked. And
Absolutely.
when we can have the right guides, then I believe that's when the infinite is possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, my dear. Thank you so much for coming on. Gosh, I'm so grateful for you. Like I said, I can't wait to book a session with you and I cannot wait to continue to learn from you because this is just the beginning. So,
Awesome. Thank
yeah.
you
And
so
to,
much for having me.
oh, you're welcome, Dr. Stacey. And to my listeners, you know how much I love you. Until the next time. Bye.